This is Crystal with Whole New Perspective. Guys, I was getting ready to put away some eggs and I thought I would just bring you along with me. I've had so many people asking me how I freeze my eggs. I thought I would just bring you along with me. Now before I do that, I want to thank you for subscribing to my channel. I want to thank you for hitting the thumbs up. And I want to thank you for all the comments that you've given. And if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Now I have a co-worker that has chickens, and every time during this time of year, his chickens are laying lots of eggs. And he usually brings me eggs. And so he has brought me 6 dozen eggs, and I'll show you those eggs. And also, I had just purchased 6 dozen eggs. Now, yes, we do use a lot of eggs. We eat a lot of eggs. And so this was really, really good and a really good time for me to go ahead and freeze some of these eggs. Now, I thought that I didn't have any eggs in my freezer, but when I was cleaning out my freezer or going through my freezer, I did notice that I had eggs in there from 2020. And yes, I'm gonna show you those eggs and what they look like. I am. And I'm going to show you my process here. I'm gonna tell you why I do this. And then I'm gonna talk to you about some egg substitutes. So these are the 6 dozen eggs that my coworker brought. Now, if you have chickens, you know that you just reuse your cartons. And I usually will take him lots of cartons. And this is the brand that I purchased. And I purchased 6 dozen. And that's what I'm going to be freezing today. Then just stick around because I'm going to show you how those frozen eggs cook up. And that way you'll get to see the full experience. So this is just 1 egg, and I save all my shells. I'm gonna save them and wash them, and then I just take care of them and put them into my gardening soil. And I beat this egg pretty good. I don't like to keep any of the yolk by itself. Now, when I first started freezing eggs years ago, I realized that if I didn't beat it enough, that the yellow part of the yolk just doesn't look right. Not to me. And so I just beat it really good. Now you all know that the white part of the yolk is mainly water. And so we're going to talk about that when we talk about substitutes. So I only like to use 1 egg. I'm using this silicone muffin tin, and I put 1 egg in. It just makes it easier. If I'm using these eggs, usually it's because we've run out of eggs and I want to sparingly use these eggs and I want to stretch it. So if I'm cooking it in the morning, I'm going to stretch it with different things. If I'm going to be baking, I'm not going to use these eggs. I'm going to use a different egg substitute. But for eating eggs in the morning or whenever, I'm going to use these eggs. So I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to continue to use my eggs. I don't put any salt or anything else. I don't spray them. I just do it just like this. So I'm gonna continue on to fill this up, put it in my freezer. And while these are freezing, we'll talk about different substitutes you can use for your eggs. So into the freezer they are going. Eggs are used mainly to bind your ingredients. and there are numerous substitutes that you can use. And I'm gonna share a few of those substitutes with you. Now, one of the things that most people know about is applesauce, unsweetened applesauce. So you use unsweetened applesauce. You can use mashed bananas, mashed avocados, and you can also use pumpkin, mashed pumpkin. And you would use 1/4 cup to equal 1 egg. Now, you utilize that depending on what you are baking and if you want the flavor of any of those items. There are also other things you can utilize. You can use flaxseed or chia seeds. And if you use those, it would be 1 tablespoon of the seeds to 3 tablespoons of water. Just make a little paste with it. You can also use tofu, and you would use 1/4 cup of those things as well. You can use buttermilk and yogurt. You would use plain yogurt and use 1/4 cup of those items. You can also use almond butter. That would be 3 tablespoons of almond butter or any type of nut butter. You can use baking soda and vinegar. So you would use 1 teaspoon of baking soda to 1 tablespoon of vinegar. You can use either white vinegar or apple cider vinegar. And those are the things that you would really use to substitute for your eggs and baking. Now there are so many other things that you can use, carbonated water, just different things that you can use. So do some research on that. And you can also utilize some other things in your cooking, for your savory ingredients. 1 tablespoon of olive oil equals 2 eggs. So think of that. You can use olive oil. You can use a tablespoon of mayonnaise. You can also use flour and oatmeal, a 1-to-1 ratio. And with that, all you want to do is make a paste. Then you can also use breadcrumbs. So those are a few things that you can use to substitute your eggs if you don't have any for your baking and your cooking. Now there are so many egg substitutes on the market. Dehydrated. This is a brand that I happen to use, and this is what I would use in cooking. The eggs that I'm freezing, I like to use those eggs in just eating. Scramble those eggs and eat them. Now for this, you use this is granulated whole egg powder. And you would use 2 tablespoons of this powder to 2 tablespoons of water. Now we're gonna look at those eggs that have frozen. We're gonna let a couple of them thaw out and we're gonna cook them. This is what they look like when they come out of the freezer. So I'm gonna go ahead and let these 2 thaw out. I'll bring you back and show you what they look like once they've thawed out, and we're gonna cook them up. These, I'm just going to put them in a bag until all of my eggs are frozen. And then what I'm going to do this time is vacuum seal these eggs. And I'm gonna vacuum seal them in a small quantity because when I open them, I know that I'm gonna need to use them. I don't wanna worry about having to reseal them. And so I may just do them in 6 into the vacuum sealer bags. I just want to show you that it still hasn't totally melted. So I'm just gonna let it sit here for, I may just stir it. Put it back in the refrigerator and just let it continue to thaw out. And once it's completely thawed, I don't want to cook it until it's completely thawed. Then I will go ahead and cook it. Now you can cook it when it's not thawed out completely, I'm sure, but I just don't do that. The eggs have fully thawed out. This is what they look like right now. Normally I would put some pepper in it. I'm not gonna put anything else in it. My pan is heating up. We'll put just a little oil in the pan. Let it heat up just a little longer, a little more. Turn my heat up. You just cook it as well as you like it. And turn off my stove here. So move it over. Here are the eggs that I finished cooking. I'm just gonna taste it. Looks good. They're still pretty hot. And the eggs are good. So guys, thank you so much for coming along with me through this entire process, through freezing them and thawing them out and cooking them. You see what they look like when they thaw out. This is really good. Now this is just an easy way for you to save some eggs up in case you need them. Go ahead and give it a try. Let me know how you save your eggs. You can also add different things to your eggs when you freeze them. You can add things like potatoes, you can add onions and peppers, just various things that you may like in your eggs. And that way all you have to do is get up, let them thaw out overnight in the refrigerator, and then just cook them. You see how quick and easy it is to cook, just like any other egg. So these are some eggs that I froze back in 2020. You see what this looks like? Almost 2 years ago. This is a dozen eggs. And this is really the reason that I'm going to go ahead and vacuum seal them all this time. You know, I froze probably 4 dozen at the time. And these ended up somewhere in the back of the freezer. But guess what? They're not gonna go to waste. I've had eggs like this before. And really what I'm gonna do with these is just add some peppers, onions, some other things to them. It'll flavor them up. and no one will ever know that they were frozen or that they have this type of ice on them. I do things like this from time to time, just get busy and things get pushed to the back of the freezer. So I'm going to go ahead and vacuum seal. What I know about the vacuum sealer is that things vacuum seal for a long time, and it actually keeps it fresh for a very long time. Ask me how I'll know about that. Now the eggs are ready to go into the freezer. I vacuum sealed them. That's it. And then this is for, I'm just going to put what they are on the bag and the date, and then I'll put them in the freezer. I do have more that are frozen that I need to go ahead and vacuum seal, so I'll get that done. I'm gonna purchase more eggs and just continue to freeze them and vacuum seal them. Thank you so much for coming along with me. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. Leave comments below. Let me know what different ways you are taking right now to secure your eggs, and if you are doing anything to preserve them, just let me know below.